Hey there, this is Sean Sweeney. I'm here with my buddy John. This is the pilot episode of Double Feature.
Double feature.
Double feature. We're just kind of winging it. We're kind of going to see, where this takes us. This is a podcast by a couple of friends. Let's set the groundwork, I guess, for the people.
That sounds great. It's a great story. I've heard it so many times. I'll let me tell it because it all began in high school when we would be playing Scene It with friends. And I mean, Scene It, if anyone knows, is a game that constantly throws movie references and movie clips at you. And when you're a nutty film nut like us, you just know all the answers and want to just brag about it, but no one cared. So.
No, that was it. I think it was a good example of both of us. Kind of. I didn't know John at that point, and I ended up somewhere where I didn't know anybody, and playing Scene It. I'm crushing, John's crushing, and everybody else kind of is like, "Why do you guys care so much?"
It was pretty great. It was. It was great. Do you remember that show? Oh my God, Beat the Nerds, or what was it? It was on Comedy Network. It was just Compete with the Nerds. Anyway, there was the movie geek, the video game geek, and the historian geek. And the movie geek one time had to answer all the who was the director, writer, cinematographer, producer of Amistad. And the guy had to name like all 12 main guys. And like I was watching it with those guys we were playing Scene It with on another day. And I named all of them, but deliberately left out Michael Kahn, the editor, because I didn't want to be caught being like so nerdy and wanting to be, gloating. So anyway, yeah. That's the story.
That's it. So it's like that was kind of was that your first time seeing that, like you represented somewhere else?
Yeah, like I felt why is my brain like harnessing all this information about like all these filmmakers and all the levels of talent involved? And it's just like, I had friends who would learn about numbers and such, and I would just add names and such in my head.
It was the beginning. That was I'm trying to think for me what that was. But there was a period where I think when DVD extras came out, where I always knew that I liked movies, but I think I became interested in the process when I started to understand how they were made. It started with like watching Star Wars and going, wow, look, how do they do all this special effects stuff? And then it quickly kind of became an obsession. So it kind of led to that moment where and this is in high school, right? So like playing Scene It was one of those things that like most people take it pretty casually, and for me it was like a competitive sport.
It was a $60 game. Like you had to be invested into using it all the time to play with people.
Yeah. I can remember specifically the moment where I knew that we were going to be buddies about this. Was you answered a bunch of questions, and I think I did too. We were both answering questions about The Jerk, the Steve Martin film, which I mean for people that grew up in the 90s like we did, it wasn't super common
to know those things.
No,
right.
That was it.
And I don't think I've ever seen The Jerk, and yet I still got the answer right.
Yeah. No, that's it. Same here. I think I've seen the first 20 minutes. That might be a movie for an episode.
There you go. Yeah, a Carl Reiner, Steve Martin thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I've never seen a Carl Reiner.
So what ended up happening was we've been buddies ever since, and we've been kind of passionate about talking about movies. We watch movies, we talk about movies. And recently John had one of the best ideas that I've heard of lately. It was a double header, and we watched Showgirls. Was it show? No, sorry, it was
Mike Nichols' Primary Colors and Paul Verhoeven's Showgirls.
Yeah,
two very American motion pictures directed by two Germans.
Oh yeah, that's true. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and they both escaped.
Nichols is German?
Yeah, he was 8 years old when he got here, or something like that, and he fled from the war.
Wow.
Yeah, and then him and Elaine May, his like talent partner, creative partner, met in New York, and then they do improv and stand up together just to make money, and then they grew, and he started doing plays, led to what's it called? Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, and then The Graduate, and then Verhoeven made. Oh, I was reading about Verhoeven. He did mathematics and got a master's and a PhD in Denmark for mathematics. And
he was a smart guy. That's something I've read a bit. So I guess in laying out the context for this show, as you can tell already, John has an encyclopedic knowledge of kind of the players in film and kind of the way, you know, their origin stories, and me, I'm coming in with fresh eyes. I'm watching these things for the first time, and a lot of this stuff I'll forget names. That I'll say that right off the bat.
I find most people do, and it bothers me sometimes when it's like you'll be at a party or a socializing or whatever, and people are name dropping, but then you just get, instead of people saying, I think it's Michael Kahn, I'm gonna be like, well, that is the answer. It's
that's it. You take it seriously. You know for a fact who these people are, and kind of things about
I've
them.
had my pride like shattered sometimes by not knowing names. Recently it was like, but with Canadian political figures, I was like, no.
Okay.
I was like Lisa Raitt, and who was the premier of Alberta?
Rachel Notley.
That's right. I was like switching the two. No, Notley, and then Ambrose.
Rona Ambrose,
right.
but she's not. But she's a political. She's the interim
right
leader of the Conservative Party. Yeah. So but that's outside your wheelhouse. Your wheelhouse is movies, and you know that. And I would, if I had to make a bet on anybody I know that knows stuff about people in movies, it'd be you.
That sounds fair. Yeah.
And it's interesting because I work in film, but my knowledge of film is sometimes wanting. I know a lot of stuff about technical things. I'm a technician in the film business, but when it comes to kind of the greater context, the players, the politics, the intrigue, the Hollywood history, I don't know that much, and that's where Jon comes in. Jon is my guru in that sense. So that's where a lot of the fun we have in talking is that I'm this wide-eyed, like, wow, I don't know anything. And
you
Jon,
have your admirers, you have your name droppings too. You got your, Douglas Slocum. You got your
it was cinematographers and stuff. Roger Deakins, he's my boy. But stuff like that's kind of my wheelhouse. But beyond that, I'm not super well versed in that. So yeah, I think that kind of set the framework for when we watched these films. So we ended up watching, as you said, Primary Colors. That was the first film,
right?
And you had seen it, right?
I've watched it. I think I watched it the first time in 1999, the year after it was nominated at the Oscars. It was on.
Wait, it was nominated? What was it nominated for?
It was adapted screenplay and supporting actress.
It was adapted from a book.
Yeah, an anonymous. It was I think it says credited to anonymous is the book.
Oh, so it was like an anonymous tell-all of Bill Clinton's story,
right,
but with other characters.
Yeah, and Elaine May adapted it. From and she got nominated, and then that happened. But I saw it on Viewers' Choice free weekend from Rogers in Ottawa. One day it was just on a loop.
Viewers' Choice. So fill me in. What is Viewers' Choice?
It was like if everyone had like HBO in the States, it would be TMN in Canada, and Viewers' Choice would be like the pay-per-view that you would like actually call the Rogers, and they would unlock the movie that would come through your box, and so you could. But they had a free weekend, and they had Primary Colors on a loop, and I thought, okay, I guess this is it. I'll watch it, and it was an adult movie, and I guess at the time,
how old were you when you saw it for the first time?
12. I must have been 12 years old seeing that movie, and by that point I had seen like Richard Gere in Primal Fear, Mel Gibson in Ransom, and Pulp Fiction.
Oh wow.
So like at this point it wasn't like these I was like seeking these quote unquote adult films and like trying to like be of a higher echelon, but still like at that point Happy Gilmore was like still my favorite.
Is that right? Okay. And I'm curious then, seeing a film like that at that age, I mean, obviously I think you can get an appreciation for stuff like Pulp Fiction from a more visceral sense. You understand violence, I think, better than kind of the subtleties of the political process at 12. How much of it did you take away?
It was just a funny impersonation, and just like the emotional kind of plot of it, because it was like everyone liked Travolta, and then all of a sudden he disappointed, and it was that was easy to follow.
Yeah.
So you weren't like at that age. I didn't understand the context of, well, there's an ethical situation here of information that's plaguing another character. But since then, I've been watching it more or less every 2 years because it's kind of it has that spot in my.
It's got perennial relevance.
Sure,
I think,
and it's
right?
kind of bizarre, especially in this climate this year. But it's very bizarre, these impersonations and the talent involved, and why anyone thinks that would have been fun to watch or to make all the time. But at the same time, like if we don't have House of Cards or any of these shows right now, this movie.
That kind of, I guess, set the groundwork for stuff like that
the
later.
Satire, the political.
Yeah, because it was weird. My reaction watching the film was a little bit strange because it was clearly like there were times where it felt so. I guess it's a movie of a bygone era,
Yeah.
right? It's very 90s and it's kind of stagey and it's kind of it's not as I guess what I'm there's a style now that's a little bit more naturalistic, or at least it's a style that we think is naturalistic because it's the current style. But at the time watching it, it really kind of feels sometimes like a play, where and especially because it's like these big, broad characterizations, like Travolta's Clinton that he's doing in this film. It
was like maybe Mike Nichols' way of preventing Oliver Stone from making a Clinton movie, because like he loved Clinton too much that he would be like, I can't make the Clinton movie. They already made the Clinton movie.
Yeah,
because Stone.
It does kind of have an Oliver Stone vibe. It's that heightened reality thing, although it's not. I guess if Oliver Stone did it, there'd be a lot more like insane paranoia.
It has some good wordplay, like that movie. There are a lot of good insults. The Billy Bob Thornton redneck character is more striking this time around.
Right. So Billy Bob plays. For those of you who haven't seen the film, I guess we'll lay it out. Like John said, it's a story of Bill Clinton.
Bill Clinton's primary. Trying to get the Democratic nomination.
Yes,
and like how there was some allegations of sexual
impropriety.
Yeah, sure. And like everybody knows that stuff going into the movie, and that was kind of the fun of it, was that if you know that if you know that about the movie doesn't need to show you explicitly those moments happening. So it's like when John Travolta is like playfully playing with Allison Janney at the beginning of the movie, you know that they've just had sex and that she's tripping over him, and but again, why watch it? I don't know, because it's kind of campy too.
It is, and it's such a weird shift in tone. Watching the film, like I was impressed by at turns. I mean, obviously, Kathy Bates is in the film as kind of a political
recently
assassin.
She's and she's like she's insane. She's like clinically insane. She's been released from a hospital for whatever reason, but she is apparently the loose cannon they need to tie up Travolta's loose ends.
Yeah, exactly, because it's it's the story of I think it's Juanita Broderick that they were supposed to. But anyways, there was the actual history of it with Clinton. He was there was some phone calls or something. I think that was the real thing, and in the film they fictionalized this, and so they're trying to control the mess, and Kathy Bates is kind of the fixer, and it's a lot of firepower for and in turn, like the way it comes across in the film, like she crushes, but it's also like in the middle of this really campy film.
Yeah, like the movie like takes advantage of audiences enjoying the campiness, the impersonation, and it's a 2-hour movie. I mean, it's 120 minutes, 124 minutes, 120.
Yeah, I think it was 2 hours and 20 minutes.
We had to like look at we were impressed by the time, but
it's a long film.
But like you get the laughs, and then you get the drama in equal dosage. So it's like you got to sit through like some really terribly staged scenes of two characters in a room, in a motel room, and because they're in motels all the time, the movie doesn't really have an interesting color palette.
No,
it's grays and like turquoise.
Yeah, you really feel the era. It's like it's all your favorite colors of the late 90s everywhere, and everything really felt like a set too. I think it largely was shot on sets, like all the hotel rooms and stuff. They're all bigger than you'd think they'd be, and that's what I mean about it feeling stagey. There was a kind of this approach to the film that was just strange, because you had this staginess happening in the movie, but then at times you had this like real emotional rawness coming from scenes with Kathy Bates. She's
blowing a guy's nuts off, and then the next scene she's breaking down because of the ethical quagmire that she's put herself in, and then blows her brains out in a very weird tracking shot of the character. But what's interesting, what I enjoyed was that it's a studio picture. It's Universal. Like this is a Universal award season movie from 1998, and like we watched the trailer. I showed you the trailer before we watched it, and it's like they're using an upbeat Ray Charles song to say, from the creator of the Birdcage comes this incredible story of a man, and it's like they don't mention Bill Clinton, and it looks funny. It's about and then it's over, and you look at the poster and just the whole box. It looks like a fun movie, and then you put it on, and it's just odd.
It's a very, very strange film. Like those shifts in tone, like because they sell it as one movie. Watching the trailer, you're right. They sell Primary Colors as this, political comedy, and it's like a or dramedy. I guess
from Mike Nichols too, so audiences can expect something with a little bit of substance.
Yeah, for sure. And it was just a really. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I mean, it's just watching, like you said, there's a real pleasure in watching John Travolta do a really big Bill Clinton impression. Yeah. Not even that accurate, and his acting, his performance in the film is serviceable.
But he's like movie star quality in that movie.
He is. He really is. It's like. Yeah, it's that real 90s movie star performance, where they're playing a character and kind of relishing it.
But was America really in desperation for that movie at the time? It's like when Stone made W, that movie was, I think it came out a month or two before the John Kerry election.
Right, yeah.
And that movie didn't make any waves, but it was like riding on the coattails of the
public sentiment.
Yeah, exactly. People going crazy.
It's true because election came out in 99, although that was right around the time actually, because I think Bill Clinton's impeachment was 98.
Yeah.
So it was still pretty fresh in people's minds.
For sure. Because that book by the Bill Clinton staffer who wrote it, the anonymous guy, he made that, and then
Yeah. It's quite a film.
But then still, the movie it's not about real life, and it just shows like this political candidate who's not Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
Do the thing, and there are some really good speeches, like the speeches he gives to the miners about you got to use a different muscle, the one between your ears. It's like no politician's going to open these minds up.
True. It really is
really
and it's there's some moments where you're going like, this is a liberal's wet dream. Like this is and strangely condescending, that speech actually.
And because the protagonist is the black descendant of another civil rights movement guy, and so it's like his reputation precedes him, and so they hire him even though he's like a rich boy Princeton kind of guy.
Yeah, totally. I'm blanking on his name. Do you remember? It's a British actor, right? That played
right. What the hell is his name?
Hold on here. Got to open up
his
IMDb.
Character's name was like Henry, and they kept saying Henry all the time.
Yeah, that's true, with a real southern like Henry. Come on. Trying to get this IMDb up here. I gotta know who it is. Oh, I'm looking at Showgirls.
Yeah, and like he was in. I mean, I couldn't even tell you what he was in.
Yeah, he. I don't think he was. I mean, he must have. Hold on here. Who was in it? John Travolta. Adrian Lester. Adrian Lester played Henry Burton. I don't actually know. What else has he been in? Let's take a look here. This is the podcast called Sean Looks at IMDb.
And I'm supposed to answer these questions, and this guy's career is completely... at least after this, I can now use this set of
You're whiffing it, John. I guess, but even if you don't know about it, it can't be... You can't have had a...
But Adrian Lester, no. I mean,
all filmography. Maybe it was just he was in all this, a lot of British stuff we haven't
or
seen.
Plays, because that's the thing. Nichols always grabs
Yeah. Oh my God. No, he hasn't really been in... He's been in a lot of stuff, but...
Because Nichols, when he did Closer, he grabbed Clive Owen out of obscurity and threw him in this big all-star movie. And then I'd say out of the four of those people from that movie, Portman, Law, and Owen, they're all pretty much on the same.
Yeah, they're big stars.
They're big stars. Yeah.
So, all right, we're recording again. I don't know what happened. It stopped. I think I clicked something on the computer, maybe. Yeah, so we were saying Portman and all that, the cast from Closer, they're kind of on the same level, but I'm looking up Adrian Lester here, and the reason that I don't know
anything?
No, is because he hasn't really done any big stuff. He's done a lot of films, I guess, but maybe it's
what happened after Primary Colors? Did he get jobs after that? At least did he get a movie and then went back to obscurity after that one movie, in 2000?
Interestingly, no. He did Primary Colors, and then it's been it's a bunch of stuff, but I have no idea what it is. I never heard of any of these films, and then until The Day After Tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and that was a blip. That's the only one I know of, and then
Well, I mean, we're not here to talk about his.
No, this new podcast is called The Career of Adrian Lester. That's all it's going to be. Every episode.
The disappearance of Adrian Lester.
There we go. It's going to be a real serial type of deal. So, So I guess coming back to Primary Colors, Adrian Lester's character Henry, he's a descendant of a civil rights activist in the film. And he goes on.
He's our eyes, right?
He's us. He's the cipher for the audience.
And he starts off with his black girlfriend who works for the like a black newspaper, and she's like calling him out for his
for supporting a guy who is there
war dodging, and he
closed
down. He probably closed down a few things or something. I really don't remember.
There's something. There's a plot point there that I'm missing, but he's kind of the heart and soul of the movie, and it's a bit of a tough sell because Adrian Lester being British, there are a lot of times where I was watching it and you can tell
that accent slipping.
The accent slipping. It's weird, and it's like, I guess I don't know. I feel like most people might notice something's off.
Well, Emma Thompson too, because you would definitely scrutinize her.
Emma Thompson especially. She had a hard time.
She's not very memorable in that movie. She's not. She's serviceable. She's that character, but that character is just not interesting.
No, it's a weird.
It's not a Hillary.
No, and they make her really kind of unlikable in the film. I find they don't. It's supposed to be.
She gets a lot of speeches.
She does, and I don't know. They try and sympathize. I don't know. It's something weird with the performance and with how they wrote that character, where it was.
There is that hilarious dance scene where they're in the hoedown, and Travolta is doing a Fat Bill Clinton dance, and he gained 30 pounds apparently for that role.
Yeah, he plumped out for that one.
Oh man, I love the title too, Primary Colors, because it's a play on
the primaries.
Yeah, and showing your
primary. Yeah,
and it's also
it's the lost art of the movie title right there. Yeah, they don't do that so much anymore. It's just a title to
right.
Sequels. So Primary Colors, it was an interesting watch, and it left me kind of baffled that it was even nominated for an Oscar. And that I don't mean that
it swept. I think if you look at IMDb, if you look at it, I think Bates and Elaine May swept all the critic awards seasons that year.
Bates I get because is inconsistent.
But at best adapted screenplay, I guess it's in a year where there probably weren't a lot of adapted works.
Right, that
this
would have
one
been
would
one.
Definitely be a qualifier for. It's when friggin'. Anyway, doesn't matter. But I'm when you notice a year when Danny Elfman gets nominated for a Golden Globe, because I don't think he's ever been nominated for an Oscar. But you're it must have been a slow year for music if Danny Elfman.
yeah, totally. No, that's true. Actually, it's a good point. And I'm probably looking at it with today's eyes, as they say. I'm not appreciating it for its context.
I wouldn't say it's dated terribly in the. 14 years it's been.
No. There's a lot of relevance to the film. It's also one of those, coming up to our next film, Showgirls. Like Showgirls, I found Primary Colors, is wildly inconsistent at times. Although it's certainly, I'm not gonna, compare the two and say they're the same, because let's be real. Showgirls is much more bonkers. But watching Primary Colors, it was
it makes me laugh to say that. It makes me laugh to think that someone could say that Primary Colors is their favorite movie, because why would that movie be your favorite movie? That just makes me laugh. I guess you enjoy. I wouldn't even on a cynical level, because that's why I like Showgirls. I don't like Showgirls. Well, actually, there's so many things to like about that one, but with Primary Colors, I just couldn't. I'd love to see who said it was the best movie of that year and see what they say now, because I don't think it was anyone's best movie.
No, that would not be. I'd be worried if that was on somebody's.
Because I know Ebert gave it 4 out of 4. I know he enjoyed it, but at the same time, it's never show him Primary Colors and show him House of Cards and the stuff we're getting because of that kind of political back and forth, because the movie doesn't slow down with letting the audience try and understand the vernacular of these professional characters, because there's so much density of the poles and
you just jump right in,
and especially too, because this is a movie that takes place at the dawn of tabloidism and 24-hour information. And so it's they have to be ahead of all this news, and so keeping up with all these characters and their that was cool. The mystery, I guess, that was a cool paper chase thriller part of it.
Yeah.
But then it turns into a Kathy Bates ethical.
There's a lot of moralizing going on. Yeah, and it's she crushes every scene no matter what, and
you're enjoying yourself, and then all of a sudden you're asked the question, okay, well, you enjoyed yourself. Well, here's another movie, and
it does feel like two different movies, where it's like this pulpy, fun look at the American political system with some big impressions, and then like this hard ethical questions, like three-quarters of the way.
And they dismiss her death after her suicide. It's like, well, she was crazy. We were gonna do something, but let me tell you, am I an evil man? No. All right, I guess you're right. And then they dance and it's over.
Yeah, it's true. It's like Kathy Bates. Primary Colors is one of those movies where Kathy Bates kills herself, probably three-quarters of the way through the movie.
She gave a brilliant breakdown scene.
Oh, yeah. Like, sells it. And you're going, okay, she kills herself. And you're like, wow, where's this going to go? And then there's like 15 minutes and the movie's over. And I remember watching it and being like, that's it? Like,
that's it
what's
for
going
Kathy?
on?
It's like the George Clooney exit in Gravity. It's like, that's it for George? Or that's it for...
And that at least, it's like, okay, anything can happen in space. But this movie, you're like, it's a political movie that's laying all this groundwork. And then Kathy Bates has this ethical dilemma. She can't deal with the fact that they're not willing to go with her advice. So she kills herself. And then it's over.
Yeah,
and everybody's fine.
And she didn't even burn the bridge or anything. She said she was going to anyway. Like, she could have released something. But then she left Henry to be like... Oh, well, even Henry, too, he forgave it.
Yeah, everybody's just like, well.
Because he's thinking, I got a job. I could get a job out of this.
Yeah, right? You know what? So I think the moral, maybe that's the intent. You look at the end of the movie and they're like, these people are awful. Look what they did. This lady kills herself. And they're like, hey, we won now. Great. No problem. Ballroom.
And then Travolta is like, fraternizing with all these women in front of Hillary, And it's like, it was a fun little movie that made... no money.
Yeah, I was going to say, that probably was an expensive movie to make.
I think 20 or 10. It could have been one or the other. Probably gross that, and probably like maybe 8 to 9.
Wow.
Because like Nichols produced it himself. And I'm sure like because of his background in like plays and all that, he knew how to stage like the production, you know what I mean? Like make sure that these are when the actors are coming. Because Travolta's not in it a lot, but the scenes that he's in, he's like the meat of those scenes. And it's it's always a Henry going to where the actors are. So so I feel like he ran a tight ship. I feel like that was a tight ship movie, but he also cut corners. Like there's those terrible shots of going in and out of a car.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't know if that's cut corners. I think that's just overly ambitious VFX.
There you go. Yeah, overly ambitious.
Yeah, there's a scene where it's like I think Kathy Bates and Henry in a caravan, and it's like
it starts in the interior.
It starts in the interior. Yeah, it's one of those like long shots that's like.
A Children of Men outside the car, inside the car rotation thing.
Yeah, that's it. Totally. It's a Children of Men. If you've seen Children of Men, there's a famous shot in it where it's this long take inside the car. It's a mix of practical and VFX. But this was like a super early example. And they're inside the car, and it's going around, and it's clearly like some kind of shitty green screen. And then it pulls, like they blend that shitty green screen with an actual helicopter shot.
They insert like the tinted window to act as our exit from the anyway, and then
it looks
they continue the conversation. And then it's also got this really sad alto sax music playing to show to demonstrate they've discovered that the new Republican candidate was doing coke and having sex with prostitutes.
Yeah. Small intermission here, folks. We're just gonna close the door. This is a pilot episode, okay? So it's not gonna be as polished. It's not gonna be as on the ball as other episodes might be, but that's okay. That's part of the fun of it.
Sure, that's part of the. I think there's some good meat in here so far about primary colors.
Meat and potatoes. You know what? And
if they ever teach a class in primary colors.
That's it. This is just a freewheeling discussion by a couple of friends about a movie we saw. We hope you like it.
Well, I do like the double feature.
The double feature angle, yeah, that's it. So that's the idea of the show. We're going to talk about the show. There's no rules. We can talk about the context of the show. We can talk about the show itself. For our audience of 1 or 2 people, I don't know who is listening to this. Reply in the comments below. There's no comments. It's not YouTube, but reply in the comments below, please. I lost my train of thought. See, that's it's live. This is live, people. I'm clapping.
Well, I'm not helping at all. I'm just trying to think of what's interesting about primary colors, and it's like,
it's okay. It's let's move on. That's primary colors.
But then here's the thing: I could still watch that movie now. It's just it's fun to watch, and then you try and catch that moment when it just you lose it. You lost the thing that you had with the movie. It's like, oh, it's fun, and then it's gone. It's gone.
Yeah, I could definitely watch it again. I feel like it's the kind of movie that it's got a lot going on, and I feel like if I'm in a different mood, I might appreciate it differently.
But the 90s too, like before like 2011, like it was just like these studios would make these, adult pictures like The Rainmaker and all these John Grishams are coming out.
It's true. That's a movie that would not get made today. If you're talking about the death of the mid-budget studio film, that $20 million to $50-60 million movie, it's gone now. Everybody's in TV, but the Primary Colors, I think, is a great example of that, where I think it was well in that. I think it was $20-25 million movie, and a movie about politics that's R-rated, that isn't it's based on a book. It's adapted, but it's not a sequel. It's not
and it was it riding on the coattails of West Wing? I don't know. Probably not.
No, I think
no. West Wing came after.
Yeah.
Allison Janney got her job on the West Wing because of that role.
Right. Yeah, that's it. So Primary Colors. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's a great film. It's kind of
it's a movie star movie.
It's a movie star movie, and it's really like it's a perfect example of the kind of movies that, for better or for worse, flaws and all, don't get made in Hollywood anymore.
Right.
And it's kind of a shame, because it's such an incredible group of people that came together to make this movie.
Mike Nichols, it's just so weird to see, because Mike Nichols' career is just so weird to me. Like he's in an auteur, because he's like made like 10 movies per decade kind of thing, and it's like you compare his earlier stuff and to this, and it just, I don't know. It's not.
Yeah, it's not. It's definitely not at the same caliber. So that was the first film in this double header that we were doing. It was a double header, but we didn't actually do it.
How did that turn into us? And like I just said, here's some 2 movies. If you're free, let's just do them.
There were 2 movies. Yeah, we were talking about it, and these 2 movies that I haven't seen, and we watched Primary.
I'm so excited for Showgirls.
Showgirls. Oh. I have to say, it's funny because Showgirls. People know about Showgirls because a lot of nudity, a lot of sexuality. It's kind of one of those things that
it's everywhere.
Controversial at the time, but I had never seen it. I didn't really know much about it. I knew its reputation, which was as a bad film, But I also knew that it had kind of this reputation as being a cult picture. I found out from you, it made over $100 million on VHS DVD after it came out. It tanked,
like Shawshank Redemption, same thing too.
Really, it made money after. So Showgirls was the second movie in that kind of double header that we were doing. And I guess, well, John, you can lay the groundwork for the film, because Showgirls was in 1995, right?
I think so. And like at the time too, it's
let's lay out because it's just for the people who haven't seen it.
Showgirls.
So Showgirls. It's
directed by Paul Verhoeven. We have Elizabeth Berkley, who was in Saved by the Bell. Jesse Spano. We have Gina Gershon. And we have a script by Joe Esterhaus. We have we have a producer, Alan Davis, who's done all of Verhoeven's movies, and it came out in 1995. It was released by United Artists, and it was I guess MGM as well. MGM with their Golden Entertainment, Wizard of Oz, and Gone with the Wind has now released Showgirls. And we also have Mario Kassar and what's his production company?
Kuroko and Sinar. Was that another
Sinar's
one?
the Canadian animation. Those guys, did you hear about those guys? Those guys are embezzled the Sinar money or something, and then all 4 of them got found guilty, and now they owe millions of dollars. Some might go to jail. But like these anyway, those guys are gone. But
Wow.
Kuroko, which did...
So Kuroko's Mario Kassar's company.
Yeah, he did...
who produced Showgirls.
He had Showgirls initially because like he was in the middle of going bankrupt.
Right,
like,
and what did he produce before that? Did he do like a
RoboCop or Terminator? Or Terminator 2, definitely.
Yeah,
he did like Total
So he was
Recall.
like a Joel Silver-esque.
He was like a Joel Silver-esque, and I think he was also more like I don't know, international. I don't know too much about Kassar or Kuroko, but I just remember like the C kind of etching in. But I heard that, or I was reading that MGM had to come in and help because he was going bankrupt. They needed to keep the movie going, and it just the double hit of Cutthroat and Showgirls just killed.
Right. What's Cutthroat? I don't know anything about
Cutthroat
that.
Island is the Matthew Modine, Gina Davis, Rennie Harlin bomb.
Whoa, Rennie Harlin's had a lot of bombs.
But he and Gina, I think, were married at the time. But this was a pirate movie where she was like the captain, or it was like a role reversal. I never saw it, but it bombed.
Okay, yeah.
And I don't know if, and I think that swept the Razzies or both, because both of them are big Razzie, are famed for their.
So
Razzies.
Kassar had 2 duds, and that sunk him in Kuroko.
Yeah, it killed him. But then here's the thing. I guess like because of the $100 million profit from the video or whatever, there's no 100 million to go to Kuroko, right?
No way. So that was all, I guess.
I don't know.
Shit.
But he's been back. I think he always had the Terminator rights, and I think he.
So he's been involved in the shitty new ones.
I know I think he was involved in the third one, because like at least there they were like they gave him.
Right.
But I don't know anything about Kassar, but it's just that to me is sad when it's like there's a company that's going bankrupt shit crazy, and it's because you're making decisions like Showgirls and Cutthroat Island is your big. But how expensive is Showgirls? Is like
Showgirls had a big
like
budget.
50 million maybe?
Yeah, it was really big. It was weirdly big. I guess it was
MacLaughlin's in it. You wouldn't remember that unless you
No. And it's watching Showgirls, 1995, Elizabeth Berkley coming off
Saved by the Bell. Her first big come out. Like Tiffany Amber Thiessen, who was on Saved by the Bell, who then was on 90210 for a while. Completely different character.
That's it. More adult for sure.
And it's just like you go from one extreme to the other. Like you're a peppy, study hard, go to attitude girl, and then you turn into this wailing armed sex doll on AA battery kind of or 9-volt battery going nuts. She looked like Bride of Frankenstein with like the freaky hair.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, watching Showgirls, man, it was an experience because I wasn't ready. I knew it had like a reputation for this being this kind of campy movie, but god damn it. Yeah, I just smashed the boom arm, guys. Hey, here you going. Real professional operation, guys. Woo! I wish I had a fart machine.
Well, yeah.
There you go.
Your boner knocked over that boom.
It's Showgirls. It's very exciting. So yeah, watching it though, it's if you haven't seen Showgirls, I'm telling you, it's more insane than you could possibly imagine. It's within the first 5 minutes, like Elizabeth Berkley, every action she does, it's like exaggerated and super physical, and she's flailing her whole body with every motion, just like frustrated. She slams her arms down. She's excited.
She stabs the French fries with the ketchup dispenser. She grabs the ketchup bottle and is stabbing her fries with them as she's pouring the ketchup as well.
Yeah, it's such a weird and it starts and the movie starts and it's so intense and so manic, and watching it I was going like this has to be intentional.
It felt like a cartoon. Like I've looked at the texture of it. It was just like I can see the glistening skin. I could see everything in this movie, and it's not sexy. It's kind of like
it's
candy.
Horrifying.
It's like too much.
My whole reaction watching it was like it feels like if aliens like only watched Cinemax and we're like, this is what human sexuality is, we must make a movie that is sexy to humans. That's what it would be.
Yeah, and they wouldn't understand English, but they would still watch it and get it because the movie, even in English, I don't understand.
Yeah, it makes none of it makes any sense.
Dialogue. Anyway, the movie came out in '95, and at this point, it's like, where are we? We have porno theaters and we have porno sections, and it's like you have Showgirls, which is the I think the first commercially released NC-17 or something.
Yeah.
And the poster's provocative, and then the reviews come out and it's just trash. And then all of a sudden now these video stores can put up the poster of Showgirls, and now people, I'll rent this bad movie and watch it with the wife, and it became like it became tradition with people.
Yeah, it became kind of a thing. And watching the film, I get it because I went in expecting a bad movie. It's like a piece of performance art.
It's 21 years old, this movie.
Yeah, and the whole movie, like, you get this real sense of heightened reality. Like it's got to be intentional. Like I said, Elizabeth Berkley's doing all these crazy moves. The dialogue is totally insane. You have all of these scenes that are just kind of played for laughs or not played for laughs. It really doesn't make any sense, and it feels like
it's a miracle that movie exists. I think it's a true miracle because you have, again, the production aspect of it. You have like Kassar, who needs Verhoeven, the German director, who obviously does not have American culture or American history as his like upbringing.
Yeah.
And so he's coming at this from like the outsider perspective of this is like the American dream from the eyes of like America's most corrupt place on earth, Vegas kind of thing.
Yeah. It's such a bizarre movie and really hilarious. I was laughing the whole time. It's just so weird, and you get like, I think
the first time watching Showgirls is so unique because like I watched it probably 4 years ago for the first time. Everybody knows this movie, and it's like, why are you going to make the time to watch this 2-hour piece of shit? Because that's what everyone like. I mean, you knew this movie, and like, I was like, you haven't seen it, you have to watch it. And, you get those people I find who are very enthusiastic. Like this summer with Stranger Things, I was like, I'll get to it. Showgirls, you've had 20 years to watch it.
Why are you so enthusiastic about it? And it's funny because your enthusiasm is what sold me. And I trust your judgment on this, but you were really and watching it, I get it because it really truly is an amazing movie in the most literal sense. My jaw, I don't use this term much, but my jaw was agape. I was sitting there going, "Are you what?"
Yep.
I think the prime example of it is at one point in the film you have Gina Gershon's character.
This is the halfway point too.
This is the halfway point.
Like you're in the movie at this point.
Yeah, you're deep into the movie, and I guess there's an attempt to have Gina Gershon's character and Elizabeth Berkley's characters, have a discussion. So they go to that. Yeah, it's a scene of them bonding, and what they bond over is they both ate dog food as children, and they bond over this fact. And I'm watching this scene going, hold on a second.
It's tender, apparently.
And it's like it's played seriously.
But you're listening. Like I remember you in the corner of my eye because like I was watching it through your eyes, obviously, since I've seen it so often. And it's like, okay, the dog food line is about to hit. How is Sean going to respond to it? And I think you were just casually watching it, and then you do a shake, and you're like, did I just process that correctly?
That's it. I thought I had a stroke or something. It was just like, is this the movie? And I think that was where I was like, this truly is a piece of art. Like who is the screenwriter of this?
Joe Esterhaus.
Yeah,
right.
and what has he written?
He's written Basic Instinct, Burn Hollywood Burn.
So like real movies.
I mean, he's written movies for Verhoeven. He wrote Indecent Proposal. He wrote. He writes these like pulpy skin thrillers. These
that's
like
it. But
violent.
all of those movies are a lot more coherent.
But they've all made money before too. I think Verhoeven or Esterhaus was paid like $10 million for Showgirls or something. The script.
Up front, it wasn't 10. I think it was like 1. But yeah, I remember reading that. He got a big advance.
Who read that? Like that's like that reading that must have been like reading Chinatown. It's like I don't understand the language. Like
he was coasting on his reputation. Must have.
She has 2 male lovers in that movie. There's the dancer, and there's the boss, the MacLeod character, and the guy from Speed. But anyway, he loses 3 jobs in that movie because he's in love with her, and then ultimately ends up with nothing in that movie.
Oh my God.
He says to her, you have more raw natural talent than anyone I've ever seen. And it's like, at this point in the movie, I've only ever seen her...
Wasn't that like 10 minutes in and all she's done is flail violently?
And that, if this podcast ever gets like, to the point of, being properly prepared, I'd love to show that scene, like to have a clip pull up and show you the scene where first of all, they live in a trailer in Vegas and they don't lock their doors, so anyone can just walk right in. So
wow,
she's wearing like a light, I think plaid shirt and panties or whatever, and she hears a knock on the door, and it's this guy, her like stalker lover, and she walks out of the house and starts having a conversation with him around the corner of her house. But then ultimately the scene ends with her running back in the house, and like Verhoeven staged a very hilarious scene where she steps out and walks right back in. But like he says, you have raw natural talent, and he goes, and then he turns and says, you fucked that guy, everybody got AIDS and shit. And then it's like,
oh my God,
throwing
I know
these like these phrases that just catch you and wake you up.
Was that supposed to be like a timely reference or something? I don't know.
I think Verhoeven's painting the dangers of this society. You hear Esterhaus tell this story, and it's like he's convinced that this is a very accurate and important representation of
Are you kidding?
Of the showgirl's life.
What?
Yeah, like it just to hear him, I guess because there's a bounty of information on this movie. Like the special editions come with trivia tracks, and I think like any film historian probably just goes to town on this.
Yeah,
one.
It really feels like the kind of movie that maybe there was like a real message to it, but then like Joe Esterhaus did a bunch of coke and was just like, woo, baby, like you know, like
he got that upfront payment.
Yeah, or that happened with Verhoeven, but yeah, I don't know, man. It's really like it's so cracked out, like everything about the film.
Like I speculate. I mean, I don't have much to go on, but it's just like I wonder what the hell was going on, because like, you know, there is that editing process, I guess, and like I've seen movies and The Aviator and whatever, you have studio executives who sit in you know,
how the hell did a studio exec react to that?
It filters, right?
Right.
Exactly. It's like
it does filter. It goes through process. Movies don't just come out. They're not just shat out by the screenwriter.
It's not like Verhoeven was like, "Yep, here's the case. Here's the film. Good luck opening weekend."
Yeah, they had to have discussions about that.
MGM, like MGM is like, you know, it's the like at this point in 1995, it was like it had GoldenEye, or I think GoldenEye was coming out, but it had
They were
Rain Man. It had Oscar winners.
Right, they had, because now they've downsized.
Oh, I think they had Orion. They acquired Orion. Like that's the thing. They acquired
Orion Pictures.
They had like a library of movies, and then Showgirls comes down there, and I guess people are like afraid that it's going to tarnish their reputation. But then through the miracle of video stores, because like growing up in Ottawa, we both grew up in Ottawa. I live next to a video store in my strip mall, and it was just like 5 movies, 5 days, $5, and like my mom and my dad didn't, you know, they trusted me enough to make the right decision and knew that I wasn't going to like, you know, Dark Knight a theater or something. So it's like these movies weren't going to affect me.
Right, yeah. You could watch the violent
so like
movies.
After watching the kids movies and the comedies, I was just like, I guess what else is there to rent? And like, you know, I never got to Showgirls because like, I mean, I guess growing up kind of gay too, it was like the movie was not erotic enough to me.
I think even for straight people, it's not an erotic movie. It's a very, you know, there's a lot of nudity and a lot of sex. I mean, and it's as close to porn as you can get.
If you just like boobs, if you like to, you know, just jerk off to boobs, this movie will do that for you. If you just like to look at boobs, there are boobs. But
there's a lot of boobs, but it's so aggressive and like unsexy. That's the thing that struck me watching the movie. Like it's not, you know, to use it's not sensual. It's just like
it's so filthy. It's like you get a bad taste. Like the bad taste starts when she literally licks that strip pole.
Oh
when
man,
she lines it up.
I forgot about that.
And there's a scene in the
it's awful.
In the special
truly
edition.
Awful.
They talk about how the choreographer told her not to do that, and Paul Verhoeven said, "No, don't do that," and she did it anyway. And Verhoeven put it in the movie.
Wow.
Because they're like, strippers don't do that. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's just, you know, I guess it's like if you're illustrating her making a power move being super alpha and shit. I mean, that's...
She was doing that to like...
intimidate. Yeah.
$500,000, I think Elizabeth Berkley got for that movie.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, it was less
for all of that.
For that, and then not only that, but then to not have a career after.
Right, because that killed her career.
Well,
she actually is doing pretty well now. I looked it up. She's a lot of TV stuff.
I mean, to Matt, she was like the Monica Lewinsky of like 95 to 96 or something.
It killed her career for a little while.
Yeah, but she was in The First Wives Club in 1997. Scott Rudin produced that movie. I love that guy's work. But she was in that, and I think she played like the Goldie Hawn character's husband's arm candy. But anyway, she would talk about how Goldie was very like supportive and protective of her after Showgirls, and was like, look, it sucks that you did that. I'm not happy that your director let you do that. So I mean, good luck. And I think Elizabeth, you know, thankfully through Goldie, felt a little kind of
because I'm curious to know, did she felt I'm good at speaking.
Well, now
did she feel though that she was being exploited, or rather that she was sold a bill of goods that was different from what was intended?
She trusted Verhoeven 100%. She knew what she was doing, because I guess she had Sharon Stone in her head the whole time, because she's like, this is the guy who gave Sharon Stone a career in Basic Instinct.
Right.
And
did she feel betrayed though after that?
That's a good question.
I'm curious, because she's not in any of the special features on any of the DVDs from what I understand.
But I think she's a good sport about it. I don't hear, because it's not like Faye Dunaway with Mommy Dearest, because you can't talk about Mommy Dearest with Faye Dunaway.
Oh, did she feel like exploited by that film?
Yeah, she did. I mean, I read the making of documentary, or I read the making of book from Ratanya Alda, who was the maid in that movie, and Faye puts in her contract at all the press junkets that you cannot talk about.
Right, so she
Mommy
really
Dearest,
didn't feel,
because she felt, because in the diary, the diary of the movie, making of that movie, Faye was going through like a lot of emotional problems and demanded a lot, and like because that movie was an awards picture with a lot of MGM workers on it, like guys who did makeup and costumes on Wizard of Oz and Gone with the Wind,
right?
And they're making a movie about Joan Crawford. Anyway, why are we talking about?
Tangents, the podcast. No, we're talking about if Elizabeth Berkley felt betrayed,
right? Exactly.
By Verhoeven,
so
because,
it's like
actors tend to put a lot of trust in the directors,
right? But I haven't seen her in like any kind of public situation where she's like not
denounced
it, and because especially too, I imagine people would like really poke her about it if she would refuse to talk about it. So I feel like she's
accepted it.
Yeah, and I'm sure she's very proud of it at this point. She had to.
It's true because it is kind of a beloved movie now. Strangely, like
I'm protective of it.
Yeah,
I think it's an important movie to have and to show people.
It is. You know what? That I think was one of the most surprising things was that it was. It felt like a movie that I was worth watching just for kind of its place in kitsch culture,
right? Yeah,
and it really is. It reminds me more of a John Waters film than a lot of other things.
Yeah, there you go. The tone is there. It's got that sarcastic kind of like
campy. And again, I don't know how much of that was
very realistic too. Like they're like. Within the first 5 minutes, it's like she's almost caused a pickup pileup. Like the pickup truck is picking her up. The guy picks her up on the highway, and he swerves because she's pulled a knife on him, and it almost creates a pileup. They get to Vegas. She gets robbed. She runs in traffic, almost gets hit, and then barfs, and then
oh my god!
And then her friend. And then the worst part about that movie is you're watching it, and the rape is the worst part of that movie. The violent ending of the friend.
Really horrible.
Because the minority, the black friend who's opened her home to actually both black characters get the short end of the stick in that movie.
Yeah, there's a weird racial thing going on in that movie.
And anyway, I'm talking as if people have already seen the movie, but I think ultimately I don't need to.
I don't know. We're going to figure this out. This is a movie. This is a thing where...
But if you've seen Showgirls, everyone knows that scene, and it's like that's the one scene that you would probably want to fast forward. If you've seen it,
awful.
You don't need
really
to watch
awful.
it. It's not
No, you're not getting a lot out of it.
Yeah.
And the film does... It kind of...
It's so off. Like, not only do you fast forward it, because it gets worse. They punch her, and it's 3 guys, and she's screaming, and then she comes down, and there's blood, and it's the worst. And
it's a real hard right in a movie that was like otherwise kind of light and funny.
But then
it had a darkness to it, but it was never that dark. And then it was a hard right.
She turns into like a whole she's like the
there's a vigilante.
Yeah, and she like kills the guy, like more or less probably killed the guy, stomping his face to death. But then the movie just takes that again, another right turn, like Primary Colors, where all of a sudden you think you're having a good time, you are having a good time, and then nope, I'm sorry, but this is actually what this movie's. You want to have a good time? Well, here's the fee.
Yeah, totally. Still, all that said, definitely a movie worth watching. I don't know about setting up stuff. We'll talk about it on the podcast. Because I'm curious about how people will react.
Well, for sure, and I would love to like go into great detail about those scenes. It's like well, the scene where she comes out of the. It's just the staging in some of those scenes.
It's an interactive podcast. Watch the movies that are in the title, and then it's a lot of work. It's you have homework.
I could I'll do the homework. I'll tell you, look, go to 1 hour and 8 minutes, and there's a scene where this happens, or come with a picture. You'd be like, oh yeah, that's at least if you corroborate what I'm talking about, that makes more sense, right?
That's it. Well, I gotta pick up my skills as the explainer guy and be like, okay, so we're talking about this. That's it. Hey guys, this is called making a podcast on a podcast. Here you get to see how the sausage is made.
Well, there's that
the podcast.
Well, are there any radio scenes like this in the movies we watch? There's that Rob Reiner scene and John Travolta scene in Primary Colors.
Oh, we need callers. That's what we need.
We need callers. Yeah.
We need callers, guys. We're gonna have callers in the show. Man, this is all over the map. I love it though. It's great.
Sounds fun. It's like call us at this hour, and then we'll be waiting.
We'll see how many viewers we have. I think it'll be none. But
so I heard that the Gouzeau movie theater in Montreal is going to be closing down in a year or two, and they're going to demolish them, and that'll be the end of that. Those Gouzeau theaters? I've never been to one, but they're like the big Silver City kind of thing.
Yeah, this is real. Let's talk about this off air, I think, because this is let's wrap up with what we were talking about.
Sorry.
That's okay. No worries. Gouzeau Theaters, great theater chain. This podcast has been brought to you by Gouzeau. We actually haven't been brought to you by Gouzeau. Please don't sue us. To wrap it up, double headers. We had Primary Colors and we had Showgirls, 2 kind of iconic films of the 90s. Well, one more iconic than the other.
People definitely know Primary Colors when you talk about it.
Yeah, people know it.
But I don't think a lot of people have seen both movies.
No, and it was interesting watching them back to back to kind of get an interesting sense of the the similarities a little bit. I don't want to get too much into that because I think, in closing, I'll talk about, both of them kind of represented an interesting and surprisingly campy side of the 90s that I didn't I know there's some cheese in the 90s, but I always associate that more with the 80s. But it kind of it explains and kind of illustrates to me that continued well into the 90s.
Yeah, they're a lot more like hubris. They actually thought what they were doing was like good, like
I wonder, right? Like if it was
like
intentional.
it was better. Yeah.
Well, certainly with Primary Colors, that was a serious movie, but it was still campy and funny. And Showgirls, I don't think they set out to make that movie as a satire or as a comedy, but that was the result, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But who knows? Verhoeven, I've never heard anything from him on his side about how he intended that movie to be.
Yeah. I think I saw something where it was like, I think he was trying to accept responsibility for it as a comedy or as a satire, but like he was waffling. But I think the real thing was that they just didn't. It was supposed to be a serious movie, and it through cultural disconnect and cocaine or something.
But like where would you slow it? Like where would you cut down on those the extremes of Showgirls? Like would you?
Yeah, it's true. The script itself is batshit.
I wouldn't understand where you would slow it down. Like the sex, maybe, and like the mute. I couldn't even tell you a song that was in that movie.
Well, certainly the characterization, like the physicality of Elizabeth Berkley's performance could have been toned down because it was nuts.
That was a nutty. That's like a Faye Dunaway and Mommy Dearest kind of performance. But like, what the hell? Like, what's that kabuki theater thing where it's just like a very heightened form of?
Yeah,
because I read
maybe that's what it was.
I read somewhere. I think probably IMDb. Brought to you by IMDb.
This podcast is brought to you by IMDb comment section. No, the IMDb trivia section.
It's the when I'm browsing up the message boards or whatever, I'll just like snatch up somebody else's opinion and like, oh yeah, that sounds about right.
So this has all been plagiarized from Movie Lover 69. We attribute this whole podcast to you. Thank you very much.
Skank Hunt 69.
So that I think that'll about wrap it up for Doubleheader. So
there you go. Was it Doubleheader? Yeah, that was the name.
Doubleheader. It's totally going to change.
I like Doubleheader because that's like inside baseball ish. Doubleheader.
I don't know anything about baseball, but I'm gonna say yes. Okay. I'm gonna all the baseball fans listening.
Is that because that's a doubleheader?
No, there's something else there. But stay tuned for next week's doubleheader where we're gonna watch blank and blank.
Oh yeah, those were good.
I'm gonna dub those in. I don't know. We're gonna watch a couple of movies and we'll come back to you. My name is Sean Sweeney,
and my name was Jonathan Fraser.
That's it, and this is Doubleheader.
All right.
Peace out. Closing music. Here we go.